And finally, Cole Hornaday, what do you got for us?
Well, I read the collected or the trade paperback Paul Jenkins and Leela Leitz's Alters from Aftershock. I read the first issue when it came out. I think Nicole may have reviewed it back in the day. But I picked it up and I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel any sense of forward momentum to actually read the series. So I happened upon the trade that just came out, and it collects, I think, the first 5 issues of the series. And please bear with me because I'm really excited about a lot of what's happening with this book, but the way my life worked out, it perfectly dovetailed with an academic study that I've been reading by Ramsey Fawaz.
Who reads academic studies?
Cole does. Cole does because he tries to incorporate it into the other crapola that he does with his wife. So, life, wife, life. Yes.
Whoops.
So the New Mutants by Ramsey Fawaz is about superheroes and the radical imagination of American comics, primarily, and how comic books, especially Silver Age comic books, starting with the Fantastic Four and the early X-Men, rewrote the narrative as far as what was normative and non-normative, and opened up the doors of talking about bodies and gender and queer theory and transgender politics and realities in comic books. And the Fawaz's discussion has really been truly interesting to me, and I thought it was kind of cool that I read Alters, and let me tell you the story of Alters. Alters is a story of this teen superhero named Chalice. She's going up against this big bad called the Matter Man, who I think his MO is he actually eats other super beings and absorbs their powers. I'm not really clear on that. But the reveal at the end of the first issue is that Chalice is actually a transgender and is male at home with her family. That kind of to me was like the perfect end of the road of what Fawaz has been talking about, where I want to try and read this quote to you really quick here because there's a lot of lovely quotes in this book. This is relating to the Fantastic Four, recasting the superhero as a paragon of non-normative gender and sexual identity, a figure whose deviant bodily morphology could open up the superhero to a universe of equally deviant relations. The final image can help illuminate how the Fantastic Four's queering of the superhuman became a common trope extending into the 70s. Just giving permission to how we tell these stories and making this aspect of reality, of these people's reality, do I want to say normalizing it? I think that's a lot of what happens in these kinds of stories, and I think that's the joy and the benefit of reading these stories, at least for me. And that's what's happening in Alters. There's a certain aspect to it that's saying this is not deviant. This is normal. This is how these people live their lives, and we should celebrate who these people are. Now, the comic book in and of itself is a triumph because of these things. However, I wish it had a bigger kick to it, because when all is said and done, even though I like Jenkins as a storyteller, he introduces a lot of characters, and I feel that the character of Chalice gets lost in this giant ensemble because Charlie has a huge family. There are supporting characters. There's a superhero team that Chalice is joining, and there are also bad guys that work under Matter Man. I'm reluctant to say I'm going to pursue the series because it doesn't have the edge that I think it needs to keep me engaged in it. But that doesn't mean it's not a good story, and that doesn't mean it's not a story that we need to be reading right now, because I think it is.
So there's a lot there, but you want more there.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes. I do think it's a triumph for what it is. I love that I live in a reality that this is where we are right now, that we're telling stories about transgender superheroes. I love that. I kind of set my expectation higher based on having read superhero comics for, my entire life. So.
And he's focusing on different subject matter, so he focuses a lot on Chalice in the first volume.
Right.
There's some expansion on her family in the second volume,
Cool.
as well as they're dealing with homelessness in the second volume.
So you are still following the series? Okay.
So it looks like they're going to, and this So in the single issues, they had articles. Okay, they do include
Yeah.
the articles in the back of this, which is good because what Paul Jenkins is out to do is not just tell a story, but he's also consulting with a lot of different people. So he consults with a lot of transgender people about the character and about their lives and stuff like that. And then in the second one, he does talk to people who have dealt with or are currently experiencing homelessness. So there is some of that that's incorporated into the comic, as well as, you know, what you see in the panels.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry, I was looking for another quote from Fawaz. So, by the by, Fawaz is transgender as well. If you get an opportunity to see History Channel's, I believe it was called The Superheroes Decoded, Ben Saunders, the professor at University of Oregon, who also curated the Marvel Mopop exhibit, is one of the go-to talking heads persons, and Fawaz is as well. So, and here's a little personal point of connection is Saunders teaches at my former alma mater, the University of Oregon, and teaches comic books. Fawaz teaches at my former alma mater, the University of Madison, Wisconsin. Wisconsin and Madison he's an associate professor there. So like, I just am getting it from all sides from my alma mater. People like writing academic works on comic books. It's kind of cool. Oh, darn it. I'm not going to be able to find this quote. Oh, wait. What was that? Here we are. All right. This is in particularly pertaining to X-Men. I just love what Fawaz has been talking about, even though it's pretty dense. He's talking about genetics and genomes, and if superheroes were now understood as genetic aberrations, or as was the case with the X-Men, mutants who represented the next step in human evolution, they could become a rich site for performing and contesting the ways that biological realities, including genetic lineage, were understood or constructed as realities. Far from becoming a fixed material fact, the concept of, quote, mutation or genetic diversity in the Marvel Universe worked as an elastic metaphor for the vast array of differences based on race, class, gender, sexuality, generation, and ability that would become the mainstay of late 60s and 70s cultural politics. So I love going back and reading this kind of stuff and going, oh, there's a new take on stuff I've always loved, and I really appreciate that. So, would you, Nicole? What do you say? Should I stick with alters?
Well, it depends, because it is kind of, it's just a superhero analog.
Right.
And it's not necessarily bringing anything new to the table in
Right.
that superhero genre.
Okay.
What it brings is it's talking about different ways of life.
Uh-huh.
And I really like the art from Leela Lee's. So that carries it for me.
Okay.
The superhero story is a little generic. I
Yes.
can ride with that.
Yes.
But I don't think that it is the thing that's going to spark you.
Okay.
It has to be the stuff kind of around it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Great. Thanks for your help. I appreciate it.
All right, Alters Volume 1. Thank you, Cole.